Hello, today we're going to cook chicken leg portions and chips, homemade chips in the halogen oven. Now you can season with whatever you want. You might want to put paprika on, whatever your flavour is. We use seasonal. So I've got the lower rack, if you can see that in there, in the bowl. I've got the black dish, and the reason I've got the black dish is because the fat from the chicken legs will ooze out, and it sometimes goes through the foil because it just splits. I'm just trying to keep the oven clean. It's just laziness, but also it does help brown it underneath. So that's what I've done there. You can see I've already sprinkled it with my seasonal, so there you are, that's on there. Just gently squeeze that together, okay, and then I'm going to put the halogen oven lid on. I have already heated this up. This has been on for about 4 or 5 minutes just to heat the bowl up. And people ask me why I do that, and it's better to have the bowl hot and you put the food in with the bowl already hot because it cooks much nicer. It seems to seal the flavour in. So in the first instance, I'm going to give these chicken portions 30 minutes, so 200 degrees. So there we are. We'll come back and see how they're looking in half an hour. There's our chicken portions after 30 minutes. They're looking lovely, they're plumping up nicely. I'm going to take the foil away now so that they brown off. If you want them cooked a bit quicker, you don't need the foil over. I just like to cook them a little bit more slowly at first because it seals in the flavour. So this is now 30 minutes in, so I'm going to give them another 20 minutes with the foil open, and we'll look at them then. So they had half an hour with the foil over them. They've now had a further 15 minutes, and I put my sliced mushrooms in, and I'm just basking the mushrooms in all the juices from the chicken. And for the last 10 minutes of cooking, I'm going to turn the halogen oven up to 225. So just to refresh that, it's had half an hour with the foil over. You don't have to have the foil over. I've done that to seal in the flavour. And then I had 15 minutes, all at 200. I've sliced my mushrooms, popped them in, and the last 10 minutes of my cooking time for this part of the dish, I've turned the power up to 225. Well, I've chosen Morris Piper potatoes because they cook so nicely and they're good all-rounders. I've peeled them ready, I've rinsed them to try and get as much starch off as I can. And you can just cut them with a knife if you want to. You can just cut with a sharp knife. That's absolutely no problem. But we want to crinkle ours. I've got a crinkler here I've had for donkey's years. And so I'm going to crinkle mine. But whether you're cutting with a knife or crinkling, then it doesn't really matter. The process is the same. Try and keep the chips roughly the same. They've gone a little bit thinner, but in a minute you're going to see I'm going to cut these down a little bit because you don't want them too fat, you don't want them too thin. Try and keep them roughly the same width, then they cook about the same time. If it goes wrong, don't worry. Put those chips a little bit thinner in the middle, but try and keep them the same distance. It's easier probably with a knife to try and cut them the same distance apart. The crinkler wants to move around. But whatever you're going to use, we just like crinkly chips. So there we are, we've got our chips roughly about the same size. If as you cut them you might find some of them are fatter, then you can chop that bit off there, make them the same and throw that little bit away. But then they're nice sometimes because they go in all crinkly. So as I say, try and keep the chips so that they're roughly the same size, and then just pop them in your saucepan ready, and we'll go on to the next part of the process in a minute. What I now do is I boil them on here. You can steam them if you've got a steamer and you prefer, just for 5 minutes. I'm going to bring that to the boil and just going to boil them for 5 minutes. I'm going to keep an eye on them. I'm saying 5 minutes. It may be a bit less because they're Morris Piper, and I do that so that they're soft, and then when they go into the halogen oven they're actually basically cooked. You're browning them off, just like when you parboil roast potatoes. So I'm going to bring those to the boil. I've not added any salt or anything. They've had their 5 minutes, and there they are, ready now to come out of that water, so they need to be drained off. So while our chips are boiling for a few minutes, what we're going to do is you can either spray your tray with 1 cowl, or you can just grease it with a little bit of oil. So I'm just going to grease it with a little bit of oil. But it's up to you. Preference is, whoops, that's gone. The preference is yours. So just grease that ready for the chips. Here we go. So they're parboiled. Drain them off. Be careful don't leave them too long when they go mushy. I know they're all the nice bits that you get in the chips. Drain them off a little bit. Try and get as much water off as you can. Yep, tip them out into there. Spread them across. There we are. We're going to give them 10 minutes. Spray them or put a little bit of olive oil if you want to, or spray them. It's up to you, just across the top. They're ready now to go into the halogen oven. There we are, they're cooked. So those chicken portions have had 55 minutes, and there's the mushrooms, they're all cooked. And what I'm going to do now, and the point of the foil in this one, if you didn't use foil before, you might want to cover them now, because I'm now going to put the chips in on the rack above. So they are just really keeping warm underneath and just carrying on fermenting. All the juices are going into the mushrooms. So we're ready now to put our chips in. So you can see our chicken's covered in the foil with the mushrooms underneath. So they're not going to get any more heat bearing down, but they will keep hot in there. There's our chips, they're on the rack above. And then we're going to need the spacer. And then we're going to pop them, we're going to cook them for 10 minutes at 220 degrees. There we are then, 10 minutes in. Some are going nice and brown, so we need to turn them over now so we get the other sides done. So this is the tricky part, trying to get the potatoes, the chips cooked that you want. So you need to turn them over and separate them. And then when you've done that, it might be easier with that, it might be easier with a knife and fork. Try that, yeah, it's probably easier with a knife and fork. So try and get them so that you've got all the white sides facing again. And then put some oil on. So I use this one spray because it's quite nice, because it just sprays the chips as opposed to soaking them in too much oil. And you've got plenty of oil underneath, you can still see the oil underneath. So there we are. I'm going to spray them again and then pop them back into the halogen for another 10 minutes. They've had 10 minutes, they're going to have another 10. If you want to brown them off quicker, take away the spacer and then pop the heat bar down, but you're going to need to have a really close eye on them just in case they do go too brown or burn. Alright, so this isn't the way I would normally do it, but if you want to do them a bit quicker, and you can move the chips around that aren't getting brown, it depends really what your time is. So there we are, there's our lovely meal. We've added a few peas, all cooked beautifully. So the chicken and the mushrooms remained beneath the chips as they cooked, kept them nice and hot. And there you are, there you have the meal. Really nice, just remains to do the taste test.
It's the only way to try these things out, make sure it's cooked properly, believe me. I have to do this, it's one of my jobs. What a shame. Let's have a go. Wow. Some people get all the best jobs, don't they? Okay, all our videos, you know where to go. Derek and 33. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.